Welcome to the Surfside PPC Podcast. Go to surfsideppc.com to join Surfside PPC Premium and ask your questions. Thanks for listening, and please subscribe.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 6 of the Surfside PPC Podcast. So, announcing that my new 2026 Google Ads course will be available tomorrow as of the publishing of this episode. But if you're listening to this, my 2026 Google Ads course should be available. It's $34.99 a year. So if you're interested, then you can go get that there. Basically, you'll have yearly updates, and you'll have Google Ads course information for $34.99 a year for life, as long as you want the subscription. If you join my premium is just $5 a month, either YouTube membership, Patreon, or my school page. So that is basically everything. That is the sponsor of the Surfside PPC Podcast. If you want to get into your questions or anything like that, no major things to really. My goal is to start on the beginning of these episodes, talk about, trends I see and things like that. Not really a major trend episode, but I do think this episode will be helpful for anybody who is running ads for somewhere that gets local store traffic or foot traffic or things like that. So what I want to talk about today is I got a question from somebody in my email, and pretty detailed question. So I'm going to put it in here. I changed a couple of things just because I don't want to mention specific stores and things like that. But ultimately, it's a consignment shop, and they want to know, should I run ads for my consignment shop? So we are going to put in question number 1 here.
I own a consignment shop, and I have a lot of competition where I am located in Florida. Should I try to run Google Ads for my consignment shop? I don't want to waste the money, but I want to make sure it is profitable, or if you think it could be profitable.
Okay, so this is a good question. So basically, if you run a local store, this could apply for really any local store where, you're getting people that are coming to visit your local store. And let's just say you have other competitors in the market. Like if you're the only type of store in your market and you do a search of, sporting goods, Myrtle Beach, and you're the top at everything, and there's not really another real competitor there, then it's one of those things where running ads, it may be worth it, but it also might be something where you're just kind of paying for people that are already going to be visiting you anyway. That's one of the things you have to balance. But truthfully, I know I'm probably very pro Google Ads compared to most people, because that's just what I do for a living and what I see. But I do think there's a competitive advantage to running ads. Even if you decide, I'm going to run a $1,000 budget, or I'm going to run a small budget. If you've never run Google Ads before, you should reach out to a professional, reach out to Surfside PPC, and we could figure something out if it's a small budget. Large budget, obviously reach out. But basically, to answer the question, I generally say I am pro running ads to your local store, especially if there's a lot of competition in the area. For this one specifically, a consignment shop. I know near me, and I just did a quick search, there's like 4 or 5 that come up. So it's one of those where with a consignment shop, you can get more people that are potentially going in and selling things to you, where now you have more things that you're able to sell. And in addition, you can also get more foot traffic to sell more of those products to people. So to me, it's one of those things where if you have an advertising marketing budget, and let's just say you want to spend an additional $500, $1,000, $2,000, maybe more depending on what size store you have, how many locations you have. I do think it's worth running Google Ads. I think running a mix of search campaigns, just really targeting your main keyword, consignment shop near me, consignment shop, whatever location you're in. Last episode, I kept saying Des Moines, but we'll use Myrtle Beach this episode. So consignment shop, Myrtle Beach. So essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to target, here are the keywords that people are going to be typing in near me. Now there's a lot more to it, actually running your ads, negative keywords, conversion tracking. What you want to do is you want to connect your Google business profile directly to your Google Ads account. So that is going to be run as a location asset. You can set up a call asset, so it's going to increase the number of phone calls you're getting. And I would run a mix of search campaigns and performance max. Now there's a certain strategy I tend to use for this for local stores. So running Google Ads for a local store or local business that, where you are getting traffic in your actual physical shop, a blind store, something like that. There is kind of a strategy to it. And ultimately what you can actually do over time is you can optimize for store visits. So you can actually get enough data of people visiting your store after they click on Google Ads. I've worked with a client that sold gold, and people would go into their store and we would get hundreds of store visits tracked through Google Ads every month with not a whole lot of spend. So there's a lot of ways to do this. And really it's targeting the right keywords and setting up your strategy the right way and conversion tracking. So there's a lot to it, obviously, to make it successful. But really for me, it's worth running ads for your local store unless it's one of those scenarios where your local store just happens to be in a market where you're kind of the main, if it's consignment store and you're number one pretty clearly, is it worth running ads? I don't know. I tend to kind of say no. If it's one of those where you have a couple locations and you're looking to increase foot traffic, you're looking to get more people in and out of the store, which is, it's always a goal. Obviously, you're trying to increase revenue. It's worth at least starting with I would say a 3-month test budget, just to say, we're going to spend this and we're going to kind of monitor what's happening in our store with our foot traffic, with our overall revenue. Now, you can't just give it like a 2-week period and say, okay, let's see if this is working. It's going to be one of those things where give it 3, 4, 5 months, give it an investment. I always say, at the very least, Google Ads, you're probably going to make your money back if you set it up pretty well. At the very least, you're running ads in your local markets, people that are searching for exactly what you're selling. What's really interesting about Google Ads is in some scenarios, and it's like, it always interests me, but in some scenarios, somebody might search consignment shop near me. They click on a $5 ad. They have a $1,000 couch that they're like, yep, I have a couch that I would like to consign with you. Great. You sell that couch for $900. Now this company spent on a $4 click. There's a $450 check going both to the consignment shop and to the couch owner. So it's one of those things where, very cheap clicks can turn into huge business. And, one person, I know me personally, I did consign a couch that I just didn't feel like selling on my own. And that's basically what happened. It's like, I ended up getting a check, we kind of split what it was. We did sell it for around $900 and, I got a check for like $450. And for the consignment shop, now I had a really good experience with them. So if I'm going to consign again, I'll do it there. I've also walked through the shop since then. I just didn't purchase anything, but they have nice stuff. So it's one of those things where a combination of Google Ads and even Meta ads for your local store, I'm all about it. And, just getting more foot traffic, using audience data on search engines to reach more people that, potentially may have gone to a competitor. So I am a yes to running Google Ads for your local store. It's one of those things, at the very least, you should test it. If you have a lot of competition, then it's something that absolutely you should be doing, especially if it's like you're getting a lot of customers in your stores. If you're somewhere where somebody, 1 or 2 people walk in a day, then it's one of those maybe not, if you're like some specialized computer repair and, you get a few customers a day, which is really all you need, then really it's one of those things where, maybe it's worth running ads, but it just depends on overall competition, in my opinion. So that's how I'd answer that question, running ads for your local consignment shop. All right, so let's get to our question number 2. So question number 2 is going to deal with AI Max. So somebody asked me a question like, do you use AI Max? Well, what would I kind of recommend? So here is question number 2.
Do you use AI Max yet? Do you have any recommendations with AI Max?
Okay, so AI Max and this is going to change because it's like one of those, AI Max isn't going to be the same thing forever. And I think things start a certain way in Google Ads and I think they end up a certain way. And it's just understanding how they work and how to use them effectively. So AI Max is a feature within your search campaigns. To me, it's one of those where, yes, we are all going to be using AI Max eventually. Maybe not all of us. It might be one of those things where, larger budgets, bigger volume, kind of interested in going after more customers. I would say AI Max is definitely going to be something that I have implemented in a lot of my accounts. So far, I have only used it in a few accounts. I've used it basically by itself in its own campaign and just bid separately than I did for some of the other campaigns, just to kind of see a test. It's more of one of those things where I have clients who are interested in expanding their campaigns, getting more volume, and that's one of the ways to do it. So do I like it? Do I like the search terms that come in? It's very similar to Broad Match for me. So when it first came out, I kind of called it Broad Match on steroids. I don't know if that's necessarily the right way to put it, but it's one of those things where I think if you're feeding good data into your Google Ads account and you're really optimizing for qualified leads, then AI Max can definitely work. If you are a very niche you're doing a very niche type of service. I think last episode I mentioned pediatric dentist, like something like that, where you're not, you're targeting a specific person and you're not really this massive, it's like somebody who's a landscaper, but it's like, oh yeah, we do landscape design, but really our specialty is, some other, pavers or something like that within it, some type of doing some type of luxury pavers like travertine tiles or something like that. So it's one of those where the more niche down you get, the more that I think AI Max doesn't work as well, because it's just, if you're in a niche down service, there's only so many leads to go around. And ultimately it's very reliant on conversion data. So can you feed it enough good conversion data to actually work? That's one of the big questions that, I kind of have with Google Ads right now. It's like, can I just always have enough conversion data for all my different clients? Certain industries, like it's just easy to get conversion data, and certain industries it can be very difficult, just expensive clicks. You really have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars. It's like what I always say with like HVAC. My first HVAC client came to me with like $1,000 budget years ago, and I was like, oh, this works. And we got some leads from it. We got enough that it was like, oh, this is good, and I billed them a decent amount. Then several years later, when we got into like AI, my HVAC client was like, yes, we want to run immediately heating repair type keywords. I'm like, all right, heating repair keywords. So basically what ended up happening was they had a $2,000 budget, and the first click is like $50. I'm like, all right. And they're like, well, that's way too expensive. I'm like, I think this is what, it's going to cost to get our initial date, because it's a good click. We got a few of those clicks in, and our first conversion is like $200, $300 something dollars. So basically what's difficult is if you're not, if you're paying $300, $400 per conversion, the client has to be really open to saying, yeah, I'm willing to test. I'm willing to spend a little bit more than I need to. And bringing this back to AI Max, is it worth spending that additional money if you're not actually seeing good conversion results that come from it? And this was a big question with Performance Max for a while. I almost think AI Max should become its own type of campaign, where I think search should still be something where it's like, yes, you can run search campaigns targeting broad match, phrase match, exact match. You still have search terms. You still have the ability to, target keywords and bid up on keywords and target the right people. I don't think that should ever really go away. I know we have local service ads now, but like, I don't think a local dentist should write up you're either running AI Max or Performance Max, and you're just kind of running these automated campaigns. Because ultimately, then Google Ads is just built for the biggest, largest spenders, which it already is, but there is a skill to it. So basically going back to AI Max, long way of saying, am I using it? What are best practices for it? I think it's worth testing in accounts where you do have a lot of qualified lead data, where you are spending a lot of money, where your client is open to getting more volume and trying to expand on, what they're currently getting in the local market. That's really my thought on it. Is it's worth it in the sense of large clients need more volume. Is it something I use in an account where, a plumber reaches out to me and says, hey, Corey, I want to run ads for, for plumbing repair and for plumbing keywords. Does it make sense for them to then, run AI Max? Probably not. I generally don't even run too much broad match keywords for clients like that, unless they're really large clients and they're again looking for all the volume in the world. Just the clicks are really expensive with AI Max. It's not like your clicks are somehow just all of a sudden cheaper. And, is it worth still spending a really high cost per click when some of the search terms coming in aren't the greatest? I mean, AI Max broad match, it drives good results. I mean, it's going to go after really good searches, but there's just crap that comes in, in with all of that. And it's like, sometimes just using phrase match and just bidding up a little bit on it is, sometimes the best strategy I've found. But it is one of those things where, who knows how that's going to change over the next, year, 2 years, 3 years down the road. So that is my thoughts on Google Ads AI Max and running Google Ads for your local store. So this is going to conclude episode number 6 of the Surfside PPC podcast. Again, you can get my Google Ads course, my 2026 Google Ads course. Should be available. It'll be available Wednesday, February 11th. It will be the release date. I believe that's correct. So if you see it, you can join $34.99 a year. So I will see you on the next episode. And remember, if you want to ask questions, you can join my premium. I'll have a lot of premium content coming out, a lot of premium Google Ads content. So you join it there, a lot of more tutorials and things like that. So definitely expanding our overall content that we'll have available for everybody. And that's kind of what our goal is as we move forward this year. So hopefully everybody learned a little bit this episode, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Surfside PPC podcast. Please go to surfsideppc.com for management or consulting options, or to get my course or join Surfside PPC Premium through my YouTube channel, my school page, or my Patreon. Please subscribe.